Hello and welcome. Welcome to the Kitchen Design Experts. This is a channel that tells you everything you need to know about kitchens, kitchen design and kitchen appliances. Now today we're going to be talking about your waterworks. Yes, do you like your water filtered, chilled, sparkling, or maybe shaken but not stirred? Yes, today we're going to be talking about the Quooker Cube. So, what exactly is the Quooker Cube? Well, the Quooker Cube is something you can buy with, or in some cases, add to the Quooker boiling water tap. Now, before we actually go into more depth about the cube itself, I would just like to reintroduce you to the Quooker boiling water tap. Now, we have done a previous video about this tap, see up here, but just for the time being, I would like us to refocus on the tap itself. So this is a Quooker boiling water tap. Not wanting to state the obvious, this one is black. It does of course come in many different finishes. It is also available in different styles. This is a round necked one. You can get a more square version. You could even get a traditional looking one. But irrespective of the finish of the tap or the style of the tap, there are basically two types of tap. One is called the Quooker Fusion. Now the Quooker Fusion tap will quite simply give you cold water, hot water, both of those come from mains and tanks, etc. But in addition to that, with this little ring here, you can add to it boiling water. Double press and turn, and that will give you boiling water. That is a Quooker Fusion tap. Now, the other version is called the Flex tap. The Flex tap is exactly the same as the boiling water tap, except with the inclusion of one of these. These Flex mechanisms allow you to rinse your sink down. It allows you, if you're cleaning a chopping board, to rinse all over the chopping board. Let me just empty the water here. And basically, the Flex itself, in my opinion, is a fantastic addition and improvement on the Quooker Fusion tap. Just a couple of things about the Flex itself. If you have one of these installed, sometimes the counterweight, if you see this tap, it comes down, it goes up, and when it goes back up, it's a counterweight that moves up and down inside your sink base unit. Sometimes that counterweight, it can get trapped between maybe some pipes or the sink bowl itself, and that will possibly only allow you to pull your Flex out this far. Just check what yours does. In actual fact, it can pull all the way out and it will reach the corners of any sink bowl. So if your actual Flex action doesn't pull out that far, just have a look under your sink and try and tie some pipes together a little bit more to allow the counterweight to go up and down more. The other thing to bear in mind is, you might not be able to see it here, but on the back there is a little nozzle here. That's just on the Flex tap. Now basically, if that nozzle doesn't fit right back into its locator here, when you come to use the boiling water, it doesn't work. So if you've got your Quooker boiling water tap and it's a Flex tap and you've tried your boiling water and it's not working, just check that the Flex is back into position. But the very best thing about the Flex is it's exactly the same price as the Fusion. And having experienced one of these myself, I see absolutely no reason, if you're buying a Quooker boiling water tap, not to have the Flex. So that is the Quooker boiling water tap, as standard. As we've said, to this tap you can also have the Quooker Cube. And what exactly will that add to it? Well, in addition to the hot, the cold, the boiling, you can now add filtered, chilled and sparkling water. And this will all come from the separate cube tank. This is in addition to the boiling water tank that you get with your normal boiling water tap. Now this particular tank is quite large. I'll show you one here. This then is the Quooker Cube itself. This is the actual tank, and this is a CO2 cylinder on the side for the sparkling water. Now, as you can see, it is quite large. The actual width of it there is 235 millimeters. It is 430 millimeters tall, and is 440 millimeters deep back to front. And bear in mind, it's always worthwhile leaving a little bit of airspace at the back of the actual cube itself. And when you're working out the sizes, remember that the CO2 filter cartridge here, this cartridge here, not filter, sorry, sparkling cartridge, this adds another 55 millimeters to either the width, or if you put it on the front, the depth of the machine itself. Now, in a lot of sink base units that are 60 centimeters wide, you'll find it difficult to fit the sink plumbing, the trap and the boiling water tank in alongside the cube. So usually the cube is better fit into a double width sink base unit, 80 centimeters or more. In this case, the cube is positioned in a cupboard adjacent to the sink base unit. And in actual fact, you can fit your cube up to 90 centimeters away from your sink base unit. Now then, as far as the actual CO2 cartridge is concerned, that is going to give you approximately 60 litres of sparkling water. Now, when it actually runs out, it's very easy to tell that it's run out, because quite simply, the sparkling water stops coming out of your tap. When you press down and turn, nothing happens. So basically that's telling you that you need to change your CO2 filter. Just another quick tip: when you come to change the filter, quite simply you take it off from the side here and you unscrew it, and then you screw your new filter on. When you're screwing the new filter on, make sure you turn it as tight as possible, and you'll hear a little escape of air, because if you don't do that, the tap still won't function. And I've had people ring me up saying there's something not right, and all I've told them to do is tighten the CO2 cartridge a little bit more, and it works. Yes, when it's emptied after 60 litres, you have to buy a new cartridge. You get these direct from Quooker themselves, not from the dealer you bought your tap from. And the Quooker do expect you to return the old cartridges, and they send you a facility as to how to do that. Now, regarding the filter, the filtered water that comes out of this machine, you're going to get about, I'd say, 6,000 litres of water through the filter, which is one heck of a lot of water. But after 12 months, there's a little warning light comes on, and for hygienic reasons, Quooker do like you to change your filter after 12 months. It's quite simple to do, and again, you can get those from Quooker. So that's the actual mechanism, that's the tank, that's what you're buying, okay? Let's just go back to the tap now and see how the tap actually functions. How does the tap actually work? Basically, you use the same collar here that we used for the boiling water. Just to remind you, the boiling water is double push and turn. You might not be able to see it on the film, but there's a red indicator around the neck of the collar there. So that gives you boiling water. Now then, if you want filtered chilled water, what you quite simply do is you push the collar down until you see a blue light around there, and then you turn the collar. So it's down, blue, turn. Now that delivers you chilled, filtered water. It is lovely to drink, I promise you. Now, just a word of warning. If you can look at the pressure coming out of that tap there, a lot of my clients, when they first get this tap, well, they don't complain exactly, but they query, is that right? Well, the answer to that question is, yes, it is right. That's the pressure of the chilled filtered water. The reason for that is the water comes through a very fine tube up through the already chilled sparkling water, and because it's a fine tube, it only comes out at a flow rate such as that. But it does in actual fact fill your glass quite quickly. So when you get this tap, if you get this tap, don't be upset if you see that the pressure of the chilled water is quite slow. It's perfectly normal. To turn it off, you release the collar. So to get sparkling water, again, we use the same collar system. But this time, as opposed to double push and turn for boiling, or push down, wait and turn. What you do, you push down and turn at the same time. Down, turn, and that gives you sparkling water. Now the blue light, you might not be able to see it there, but the blue light is now flashing, indicating that the water is sparkling. So that's it. Again, the pressure isn't great, but it will fill your glass quite quickly. One thing I have noticed on the sparkling water when you turn it off, I presume it's because of the aeration in the water, but it does continue to drip a little bit afterwards. Again, every single tap I fit, it does do that, so be aware of it. Okay, so that is how the actual tap functions. Now, I'd like to suggest to you that if the main reason for you looking at the Quooker Cube is because you want filtered water, but you're not that bothered about the chilled or the sparkling, then you can, with the standard Quooker boiling water tap, simply get a cold water filter, which is an awful lot less expensive than the Quooker Cube. So give a lot of thought to what it is you actually want. But if it's the chilled and sparkling, then there's no option, you've got to go for the Cube. Now hopefully you know exactly how this tap works, how you can get hot, cold, boiling, filtered, chilled and sparkling, all with the use of this little collar here. It's absolutely amazing, really, it really is. A couple of other things about this particular tap. We get asked an awful lot, can I add a Quooker Cube to an old boiling water tap that you've previously bought? Because before the Cube came out, obviously we did sell an awful lot of the boiling water taps, and with the Cube being a recent innovation, the question always crops up, but can I add a Cube to my tap? Well, in most cases, actually, yes, you can. If you bought your tap after, I think it's October the 19th, 2019, precise date. If you bought your tap after that, then usually you can add the Cube to it. But obviously, wherever you bought your tap from, they might have had that tap in stock quite a long time. So there's another way of checking if your tap is compatible with a Cube. Both the tap and the boiling water tank have a serial number. If your boiling water tank has got a serial number of either, I think it's CCW or VCW, it will be compatible. And if your tap has a serial number of QW, then it is compatible with the Cube. So those are two things to bear in mind if you're trying to add the add the Cube to your existing tap. The other problem you might have, of course, is the Cube requires a power source. Now, usually when we fit a boiling water tap into a sink base unit, we'll put a double socket in there, one for the boiling water tap and usually one for an appliance, because likely as not your dishwasher or another appliance, washer, whatever, is near the sink, and it also plugs into the same double socket. So you have a double socket, but you need three sources of power if you're going to add a Cube. Now, Quooker themselves do what's called a power adapter, and this is what we recommend you use, because it actually adapts the flow of power. So if one machine's taking more, it doesn't overload the system. So you can buy the power adapter from Quooker if you're trying to add the Cube to the system. Now then, just a quick return to what I call the chilled aspect, the filtered chilled water in this. How does it work? Now, first of all, it is chilled. You know, it isn't freezing. Basically, by the time it's gone through the system, I think the Cube will reduce the temperature of the basic mains water by 5 degrees. And it does this. It's got a very thin tube, which a coil, which I've mentioned to you before. That's why the flow is restricted a little bit. And this actual coil goes up inside the stored chilled sparkling water. Okay. As far as that's concerned, I think it keeps about 2 litres on hold of the chilled sparkling water. So what chills the filtered water is it going up through the chilled sparkling. What happens if the sparkling CO2 cylinder needs changing and isn't working? Does the chilled water still work? Yes, it does. So you have no worries there. But as a little tip, if you're going to be drawing off from the tank both sparkling and chilled water, perhaps draw the chilled water off first, because if you reduce the sparkling too much, it starts to fill up with fresh water and isn't as cold, and therefore the chilled water coming through it again isn't as cold. So if you're doing both, draw off the chilled before you draw off the sparkling. How much do these systems cost, I hear you ask? Well, basically the tap, because it comes in many different finishes, it can vary in price tremendously. But the one that we actually sell the most of is it's called the polished chrome. And that is the least expensive of all the Quooker boiling water taps. And that retails at £1,150 for your hot, cold and boiling. And that's in a polished chrome finish. And as I said before, the Flex, Fusion, same price. Okay? Some of the different finishes can cost an awful lot more money, so think very carefully about the finish that you want. Now, if you're going to add a different tank than the 3 litre boiling water tank, that can cost you a little bit more money as well. But the ones that we sell the most are quite simply the polished chrome boiling water tap, either Flex or Fusion, with the 3 litre boiling water tank. And as I say, that's £1,150. If you're going to add the cube system to it, just to make life simple, Quooker have charged exactly the same amount of money. That's another £1,150. So as you can see, although it's an absolutely magnificent device, it's an expensive device, especially if you're adding the cube. So give it a lot of thought, make sure it's what you want. But I have to say, since we introduced it at home, the chilled water in particular, I personally have never drunk so much water in my life, and I know it's supposed to be good for me. And just remember, if all you're looking for is filtered water, don't bother going for the chilled and sparkling with the cube. Simply add the cold water filter to your existing boiling water tap. I think that's somewhere in the region of £200 odd to add the cold water filter. A lot less expensive than adding the cube. So that's it about the Quooker Cube. I really hope that you've enjoyed this video and you've got something out of it. And if you have, please don't forget to subscribe, it will be much appreciated. I'm sure, although I've touched on a lot of subjects regarding the cube itself, that you will have further questions when you have time to think about it. And so, as always, if you do have any queries or questions, bang them in the comments box below. We absolutely promise to get back to you. And once again, thank you very much for watching. See you next time. Bye bye.